This video is for the white Afrikaners.
We're importing white racists.
In South Africa, if you're white, you have a target on your back.
Him and Elon Musk are racist twats.
Are actually pro-apartheid, and that's why they're moving to the United States.
The decent people who are left in this country need to ostracize and marginalize anybody that supports Trump.
Is it just mind-blowing that this level of racism exists in our country and it's against white people?
Good morning. This is for the South Africans who are going to be entering the United States.
Most of us aren't glad you're here, okay? We don't want you here. We never wanted you here.
Here we have another white American who hates white people so much.
When they saw the color of his skin, they did not ask where he was from.
Must never be scared to kill.
It is tear-jerking to think what is going on in my home country. And here I live in America as a refugee, and I've got safety.
Why has such an exception been made for this group of people?
Maybe the exception was made because their lives are in actual danger.
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
They want the white man to suffer. They want the white woman to suffer. They want the children to suffer.
White South African workers, y'all gonna be working to feed black folks.
Suddenly, Democrats are against immigrants. After months of taking to the streets and protesting in their favor, we are now finding out what they actually want is the mass illegal takeover of our country by military-aged men who are preferably of color. Because if you have a skin color that is lighter than about this, then Democrats do not want you. They believe you are privileged. Because as soon as Donald Trump welcomes 59 refugees from South Africa whose land has been taken away from them without compensation, they're being persecuted by their government, and their lives are in actual danger, then suddenly Democrats are against immigration. In this video, we're going to look at the differences between these refugees and the other refugees from Biden's administration, as well as some liberals' takes on these South African refugees. Would you guys please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel? Thank you so much. I want you guys to be a step ahead of these liberals and know that they believe that it was hypocritical that Trump brought white people in, but isn't welcoming to the mass takeover coming from other countries like Haiti and Venezuela. These liberals are simply taking part in reverse racism. These families were fast-tracked. They came here legally. They're proud to be here. They're holding American flags, and liberals are upset about that.
So now Trump is importing apartheid supporters from South Africa. You can't make this shit up.
Importing. She is literally referring to human beings as if they are merchandise.
So it's very apparent what's happening here. We're importing white racists and deporting anybody that isn't white. And it is very clear what's going on here. So what we need to do, the decent people who are left in this country need to ostracize and marginalize anybody that supports Trump, anybody that is in his regime, him, any Republican senators, any MAGA people out there need to be ostracized and marginalized so that they know that we're not going to put up with this shit. It's ridiculous.
She assumes that if you are white, then you are racist. And yes, I agree that it is very apparent what is happening here. It is reverse racism. You are a white person who believes that being white is so bad that you should begin persecuting and marginalizing other white people. That is insanity. Some people say that it is just a lie and that these people's lives were not at risk. And I'm going to show you some videos that prove the opposite of that. And I just want to take a second to note how happy these people are to be coming to the United States. They have American flags. They're smiling. They seem like decent, happy people. But I guess for you to be a refugee that the Democrats want, they want you to have a criminal record and to have your face covered and have MS-13 tattoos. Here we have a real South African who is saying that all of this stuff is made up.
Hey, lovely people, and particularly a quick word to my American friends who might be tempted to believe what Donald Trump is saying about South Africa, my home country, where I happen to be right now. Him and Elon Musk are racist twats who have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Because what they're doing is taking the word of a fringe racist group called AfriForum and other disaffected whites, disgruntled by the end of apartheid, feeling hard done by, and much like the Israelis, victimizing themselves when they are not victims at all, bitching about how land redistribution is racist against whites. These are such ignorant provocateurs.
I mean, imagine having your land taken away from you and getting no compensation for that.
And it's going to backfire on them. South Africans' majority, the black majority, and it's a multiracial, multi-tribal society now, only own a tiny proportion of the land versus the size of their population.
The whole thing seems a bit complicated because they had the apartheid from 1948 to 1994, and now people are very upset and they want equity. And they say that the town of Cape Town specifically is like the most inequitable town in the whole world. It just does not seem right to me that if somebody has ownership and they receive that through the generations one way or another, that somebody can just be like, no, we're going to come and take this now and give it to somebody else or give it to everybody else. You can't just give things to people. You don't just get things for free. That's not how the world works. Things need to be earned and they need to be worked for.
While white South Africans make up 7% of the population, more or less, they own about 70% of the decent land. And so the redistribution of land is to address past inequities, and the vast majority of South Africans agree and understand why that's happening and that it's a good thing. It's also under a very strict mechanism. Now, not everyone agrees, of course, with the mechanism, but the principle is what racists like Musk and Trump are railing against here on behalf of a bunch of assholes who equate equality with oppression, because for so many years, decades and decades of the apartheid era, they were the oppressor. And as we know, whenever the oppressor looks at something like equality, it suddenly becomes oppression of him. So Elon Musk, these idiots from AfriForum, you probably know nothing about them, but this is a bunch of, the equivalent of your kind of Proud Boys hanging on to some past that never actually existed. And a past in which the vast majority of people in this country were oppressed, suppressed, and treated much like, fortunately not quite as badly as the Israelis treat the Palestinians. So this whole railing against South Africa, I'm going to add one more point. South Africans on the whole, all of us, white, black, Indian, colored, which is not a term, is a specific term for those of you who might get offended by that, a specific racial group. We are very, very resilient people. As a country, we have gone through a great deal, both in terms of the early part and then the transition from the apartheid era to genuine multicultural democracy. And whatever Trump throws at us, we can handle. We can handle it because we've been through far, far worse in our history. And my hope is that South Africans all turn around with one voice and tell Trump to for these sanctions.
From the videos that I have seen in South Africa, they have communities that are completely separate. They have metal sheet homes that just look very run down and they don't have much greenery. And then a few blocks down, they have mansions with big gates to keep their homes safe. And so I'm wondering if they're okay with people taking the land of white South Africans and then redistributing it to the rest of South Africa, then are they also okay with them moving in? Are they going to take down their walls, let them come into their house and let them move around their nice luxury houses instead of living in those sheet metal houses? Because what I understand is that our ways of thinking materialize themselves. And so just because you move somebody somewhere else, they are still going to have the same thoughts about money and about how the world works that they were brought up with and the same habits. So I'm having a hard time believing that this guy is actually okay with the multiculturalism as much as he says that he is, but maybe I'm wrong. I've never been to South Africa, okay? Probably this girl hasn't either. South African government says new refugees coming to the US aren't vetted whatsoever. That is just an absolute lie.
For anyone who has any problems with refugees, I do not want to hear you talk about the South African white refugees and be like, they're coming here legally, it's fine, because their own government even says that they are not vetted. While Donald Trump says that they are completely vetted, that's 100% untrue, according to the South African government. They also said that the people that claim that they are being genocided are actually pro-apartheid, and that's why they're moving to the United States. And they're saying straight up that it is a move for political advantage. The South African government also came out and said that it's really ironic that Trump is allowing the most economically privileged people from around the world to enter the United States while denying the most vulnerable people who are trying to immigrate to the United States. Like, let's be clear here. These people are becoming refugees to the United States specifically because they are upset that people are upset in South Africa, that they are pro-apartheid. And yet Donald Trump will not accept any refugees that are actually coming here for detrimental circumstances. Again, it's just racism. That's all it is.
A detrimental circumstance would be like your life being taken away. There have been so many people that I actually know of, people personally, who have showed up at the US border claiming that they were being persecuted and this and that. And the US was like, oh, okay, come on in. We'll figure out the rest later. We'll find out if it's true later. And yet here we have a lady who is going to side with the South African government, of which she can read as much as she wants about online, but isn't really going to understand what it's like until she goes there or lives there. But yet she's going to side with their government and say that these people are not vetted. Yet in our faces, in our eyes, we have seen so many immigrants who haven't been vetted at all. They have literally zero documentation here. And yet these people were not only vetted, they're not hiding the fact that they're bringing South African refugees here. They made videos welcoming them here. There's nothing to hide, but yet the Biden administration denies the fact that they had the border open. Kamala Harris got all awkward when they asked her if she ever went to the border because she didn't. This is a person who actually sincerely believes and acts out that Black lives matter or colored people's lives matter, and that is true, yet she doesn't care about white people's lives. Unfortunately, and again, she is white, and that is really bizarre to me. This woman says, "Dear South Africans entering the U.S. with a very creepy grin."
Good morning. This is for the South Africans who are going to be entering the United States. This is just a public service announcement. I just wanted to make you aware that the Black people who were students during apartheid, we're grandmas and grandpas now. And we have the air of Gen Z. One more thing. I also want to let you know that our president, he has Secret Service and you will not. I also want to tell you that Black people over here are empowered. These are just public service announcements.
What the heck? What is she trying to get at? Her tone is saying something completely different than what she's saying. It seems threatening. I just want you to know that we're the most powerful ones here and we're going to oppress you. These people think that they're all about equality, yet they want to be the ones in power.
When you get here, sit your ass down and don't touch nothing.
What the
because
heck?
You don't have Secret Service. Now have the day you deserve.
That was just really weird. Interesting that that Black woman's message to South Africans was that Black people are powerful here, but yet their message to the rest of America is typically, we just want to be equal. We just want to have the same opportunities.
This video is for the white Afrikaners who are coming to the United States. I think you've already landed here. And I know that some of the folks who met you at the airport told you, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Most of us aren't glad you're here, okay? We don't want you here. We never wanted you here. And furthermore, I noticed they're going to settle you in Idaho, Ohio, and North Carolina. I will tell you they're not our finest states, so they're a good fit for you. I understand that many of you are farmers, and I've seen a lot of people say, oh, that's great, we need more farmers. Sorry to say we don't. We actually need farm workers because we've deported most of them. So if you can, put your picking hat on and think about, picking produce, that's largely probably what you're going to be doing here, because I hear you don't have a lot of skills. I would say that you're not going to have to hold just one job, but probably 2 or 3.
This lady is the epitome of a failure in America. She has watched way too much TV. This is a woman who is so pessimistic. She sees no opportunity. She probably loved the fact that Joe Biden allowed all of these young men into our country, but hates the fact that there are decent families here because she could never have that herself. So she doesn't want that for anybody else. That's kind of what I'm getting here.
To make up for your quality of life that you had back in South Africa. There'll be no servants working for $2 a day. There's none of that here. So you're the servant who's working for $2 a day. So enjoy that.
This just actually shows that Democrats are the party that was for slavery. And they still seem to be today.
You're going to have to pay for your health care, and ordinarily, because you're a refugee who's being discriminated against, you would go on Medicaid. But guess what? The Republicans just cut Medicaid. So I don't think you're going to have that option for health.
Why is she doing air quotes around refugees when these people's lives are actually in danger? In just a second, I'm going to show you the video coming out of South Africa where they are all chanting horrendous things. One pattern that I have noticed in so many Democrats is that when they don't get their way or they try to convince other people to agree with them, they will begin to paint out the worst picture that they can imagine for you. They're like, well, what would happen if you were pregnant and then you needed to have an abortion or else you were gonna die and then your kids are gonna be raised without you? How would you like that then? It's like they love to come up with the worst possible case scenario in their heads. But the only person that is actually affecting is her, because meanwhile, these South African people are smiling. They have their flags. They're with their kids, their families. They're so excited. They're so optimistic. They see all the opportunity in the world. A fresh new start here. A world of possibilities is open to them. Yet this woman took all of that away from herself because she has absolutely no direction or meaning in life whatsoever.
So maybe you'll do without. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I did notice that the Episcopalian Church had a program with the government where they would they would resettle and help, refugees resettle. They find you all to be so onerous, they terminated the partnership with the government. And they said, yeah, we won't be.
Again, here we have another white American who hates white people so much. Do these people just look at themselves in the mirror and be like, oh, I suck. I suck. That is absolutely ridiculous. These people put more focus to skin color than anybody else.
While we are 58% white here in the United States, that's not going to last much longer. Within the next couple of years, we're going to be the minority.
She's so excited about that. She's like, I'm so excited to get rid of my race. I'm the worst person. These are probably the things that she actually says to herself in her head because it shows through in the things that she's saying. She's not a nice person at all.
Which will be fun for you because that's what you're used to. Interestingly enough, we have a ton of Latinos. We're the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world.
She's so proud about that.
So for you, if you could stop speaking that dirty, guttural, whatever it is, German, French.
Is it just mind-blowing that this level of racism exists in our country and it's against white people?
The Dutch thing that you speak, that Afrikaans, nobody wants to hear that shit. So you can speak English or you can speak Spanish.
They can speak English, and I'm pretty sure that most of them do. They actually have a really nice accent in English too, which I'm sure many people are excited to hear. I was recording a video downtown and I met a guy from South Africa, and he had the funniest sense of humor that I have ever seen in a person. He was so happy, so witty, and I don't have a problem with them. It's mind-blowing to me that she's okay with all of the Latinos, but when there's these happy South Africans, she is very upset. I think that their happiness is very intimidating to her because that's something that she isn't able to achieve in her own life.
That the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination.
To me, it just sounds way too similar to the communists in South America that convince the townspeople that the people in the city are so bad because they've made all of this wealth, but they're the ones who actually supported them this whole time, and so they deserve to take everything that they have for them. No, you don't deserve things by just taking things from other people.
So if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No, they can
these
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland.
I like how she didn't answer the question because obviously she is against them coming here. Democrats are so confusing because they're like, we should allow immigrants from Latin America, Haiti, everywhere around the world, but yet these people, they should go back to where they came from. Why can't people just understand that some win, some lose? Some are born in America, some are not. Some are wealthy, some are not. Some have a good mindset, some have ambition, some do not. But if they're the ones who don't do the things that they should to create wealth in their own lives, then they don't deserve wealth. This post says, how come the left media never covers the racism in South Africa? Shoot to kill, kill the Boer, the farmer. They had no problem with 20 million illegals flooding into the US on government money, but suddenly outraged about a small group of South African refugees. A small group that came in with American flags, with their families, happy and excited to be here. This is what was happening to them. This just shows that there is no common sense left in the Democrat Party or the liberals or the woke people, whatever you want to call them. Here is another example. This is Julius, who has time and time again called for the genocide and slaughter of white people in South Africa. And yet they're saying that this isn't true. Do they think that we're living in the 1920s and we have no media communications whatsoever?
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
And you have hundreds of people who are clapping for this.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we've not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
cry babies. Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter.
Okay, if you want to call other people a crybaby when you're threatening their lives, then don't try to start a worldwide revolution when the same thing happens. And he said that he can't guarantee this in the future. At this point, I'm too invested. We're gonna have to take a trip to South Africa now just to truly get down to it. But here is a post that says, some people deny that white South Africans are persecuted and say they don't deserve asylum because they are white, yet each one of these crosses represents one South African farmer whose life has been taken away. They want to say that it's not true, yet you literally cannot make this up. This is a real video. It's not AI.
In South Africa, if you're white, you have a target on your back, whether you live on a farm or whether you live in the suburbs. In 2011, they brutally and savagely murdered my wife's grandfather. They did not ask where he was born. He was born in Austria. However, when they saw the color of his skin, they did not ask where he was from. They savagely tortured him, strangled him, burned him, and then murdered him. Before they did this, they also raped his wife in front of him. Yes, several men raped her to death. So living in South Africa is not for the faint-hearted. The ANC government goes out and continuously calls for the killing of the white minority. Now, not only the white men are suffering, but the women. There is basically no women's rights. Every 3 minutes, a woman is raped in South Africa. Countless infants below the age of 2 years old are animals that get stolen or hacked to death alive. It is tear-jerking to think what is going on in my home country. And here I live in America as a refugee, and I've got safety and pleasures of life that my fellow South Africans cannot fathom. You know, being a house owner in America, I actually own a house that hasn't got a 10-foot fence around it, which feels weird. Nothing seems to be changing in South Africa because the government doesn't want it to change. They want the white man to suffer. They want the white woman to suffer. They want the children to suffer. They are killing the language. They are killing the people. And what they are standing for is ungodly and unethical and immoral. And I honestly believe that Cyril Ramaphosa, Julius Malema, and the ANC will be held accountable and need to appear in front of a jury on accounts of crimes against humanity and against the white minority in South Africa.
That was the saddest video I have ever watched. And that video had way more of an impact. He had way more points than the first South African guy. I don't know what kind of crap he puts in his head, but the first South African guy that we watched, all he basically did was say that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they're just racist. Everything they say is just a lie. This guy gave us a personal story. He has been greatly impacted, and he is now in the United States, and you could just hear it in his voice how grateful he is to be here. Compare that to the families of immigrants that even if they've been here for generations, some of their kids are so entitled that they take to the streets with Mexican flags and screaming about how they love Mexico, yet they've never even probably been or lived in Mexico. We had people in these protests burning the American flag, and yet all these Democrats are angry at guys like this whose families' lives were in danger, and not just in danger, they're being tortured, and they're going to be upset at them. Here is more footage of a cross planted for every white farmer in South Africa. This is literal proof. These people are actually being persecuted, and yet they want to accept refugees who just come here because they want to commit petty theft or things way worse than that.
These are the first group of white South Africans who've been fast-tracked into refugee status. The Trump administration made a big thing about cracking down on immigration and suspending the refugee resettlement program. So questions are being asked on why has such an exception been made for this group of people?
Maybe the exception was made because their lives are in actual danger.
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Billionaire Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa. He's one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, and he claims that there is a genocide of white people happening.
Time after time, Democrats never come up with their own arguments. They just try to steal the ones that Republicans have. Footage of homeless Americans watching South Africans land in America to collect benefits, free housing, etc. But America first, right? 59 South Africans compared to 20 million illegals, and they're trying to have the same argument. Democrats just keep exposing their hatred.
Here, they about to be the new help. Y'all, don't worry about these white South Africans coming here. They about to be the new help. You heard me. They are about to be the new help. They got rid of all the people tending the land. All the immigrants that were tending the land are gone. So what they about to do, replace them with the white South African workers. Y'all gonna be working to feed black folks. As y'all should. Get y'all asses over here and do y'all goddamn job. Y'all think y'all getting away from us. Y'all not. Y'all just...
Instead of seeing equality amongst blacks and whites, this woman is saying, you're going to be my slave. Okay. This post says liberals when the white South African refugees pull up and they got the septum piercing, everything. And then suddenly they just become Donald Trump himself. While it is so easy to sit here and point out all the insane ways of thinking that the liberals have and say that they need to change, they need to improve themselves, all that we really have control over is ourselves, and we need to work on improving ourselves. And to see the change in America that we want to see, we first have to implement it within ourselves. We first have to be good, loving people. And so let's continue to work our very hardest on ourselves to make America great again. Would you guys please make sure that you are subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.